All right, today I'd like to talk about a few acoustic trade-offs and then the topic of cost. And, as you're spending time on internet forums, guys say something like this is like buying a Ferrari or a Rolex, which on the surface, I suppose. But, when you're comparing this to like an entry-level acoustic, yeah. But when, your nicer store brands like your Martin 500, Taylor 500 on up series and your Martin 18 and 28 series, you know, it's still more expensive, but then the idea with like these luxury brands of like Ferrari is, there's additional costs, your maintenance and all sorts of specialty stuff. Where with an acoustic guitar, really you just need strings, which all guitars need strings, humidity control, which all good acoustic guitars will require. So you can't just leave something like this under your bed for 20 years and hope for the best. And definitely don't leave something like this in an attic or a garage, which, I mean, if you had something this nice, I would hope you wouldn't be leaving it under your bed, because why? But other than that, this doesn't really require any extensive maintenance that a nice acoustic guitar doesn't require. And, sometimes you'll have to buy a setup, but this came to me with a really good setup out the gate, so that's a few bucks saved. And, if you're maintaining your guitar, once you set it up, it's going to stay that way for a really long time. And, it's true, most guitars will need a neck reset, but that's usually 25, 30 plus years down the road. So I don't worry too much about that, because, what's going to happen in 30 years? Who knows? So then another thing I've noticed with this guitar is, with it being very responsive, this allows your picking hand to go a lot softer. And then one benefit to that is your fretting hand can also play softer. And I'm not 21 anymore, and I've noticed my hands can't take the pounding like they used to when I was younger. And playing guitar or bass in a band for all sorts of hours of the day, and after spending way too many years at a desk, my hands aren't as good as they used to be. So, when your picking hand is going softer and your fretting hand is going softer, you can play a lot longer and more comfortably, especially when you're using good ergonomic technique, which that could be another topic for another day. But, it's not the same. You can lower your action on like a heavier bass guitar, but your picking hand is still going to work hard, and your fretting hand is still going to reflexively work hard to kind of match that intensity. So, I mean, feel free to try this out, but try picking really hard and then fretting really light, and then fretting really hard and then picking light, and see how your hands kind of really want to match the same intensity. So, a nice added bonus to this guitar is, you can pick it lighter, which would be good for or easier on your left hand or fretting hand, depending on what hand you play with. And then another thing I noticed with this guitar being really responsive, one downside is that it can pick up some noise if your technique's not very clean. So if you're sliding around, a guitar like this is really going to pick that up, especially if you're using a really nice microphone. So, one solution is you could maybe use elixir strings, which kind of help with that. And I realized that because on a couple of my songs, I do a lot of sliding, just because that's how I wrote the songs, and this guitar really picks that up. And another solution would be to, clean up your technique. So instead of, so clean up your technique, and, a guitar like this can show you that, where certain guitars, which I feel like a lot of players like, really bassy guitars might be able to cover up a lot of that stuff. And it's the same deal when you're playing with like heavy distortion on an electric guitar. Any imperfections and slurred techniques are kind of hidden by a guitar like this. So, I'd say it's probably best to work on your technique and clean it up. That way, clean technique on a guitar that might hide it is no big deal, but sloppy technique on a guitar like this shows up. And I can kind of get why some guys don't like forgiving instruments, because, with the clarity, if your technique is wrong, you hear it. And, you know, with the overtones on this guitar, you know, it's almost like making a mistake using a delay pedal. It's just like you hear that sour note and it really shines out. I don't know if that's just our psychology or if it's our ears or us being our worst critics, but I've noticed on certain guitars and certain basses that when they have a really clear sound, your mistakes seem to be amplified. So that, you know, on one hand that sucks, but on the other hand it gives you a chance to really clean up your technique, and when you nail it, it makes it just that much better. So that's my thoughts on these two topics. I'll probably put out another video or two before I send this guitar on its merry way to the next person who can get to try it out and see what they think. Have a good day.